Greetings everyone. Yeah, I'm back again with another video on the Quest podcast. This is your host, Usiphosethu Kamlambisi uGabu Iciwashe Thithibu Nozinga Umntomlambo. Yeah, today I'm gonna focus and narrate the story, early ages of the founder of ZCC, the largest church in Southern Africa, Engenas Lekganyane. So he had a very difficult childhood because him and his family, they were under a chief which at the time was unrecognized, and the chief's name was Mamabolo, and they had no stable place or homeland which was given to them, so they had to move around looking for a place to stay. They were not staying in one place. So, and after that, a disease struck them, and that disease killed 90% of the livestock, the cattle and the crops. And it was so sad. They lost their cattle, which resulted in huge hunger. And after 2 years, there was a huge drought, which led to people suffering a lot at the time. So it was bad, and it was bad in a sense that at the time it was the time of colonialism, where black people were suppressed and marginalized. So while them losing their belongings, they had to also go, because at the time it was 1899 where the Anglo-Boer War started, and they had to move, and they moved to this farm in Teflop, which is now the farm called Teflop University. There they found a place where they could stay. The chief organized with the farmers for them to stay there, and they stayed for about 4 years. And after the war, so the owners of the farm, which were not around, they came back. Now they came back allegedly claiming that they didn't pay rent, these people who are under the chieftaincy of Jacob Mamabolo. So they were removed, and they forcefully took their cattle again. A sad experience. So they had to go to the Supreme High Court, the Transvaal Supreme High Court, where they laid a case, they opened a case against this farmer, and the farmer kicked them out. So after some time, and then they got back, they won the case and got back the cattle, but unfortunately the farmer had already kicked them out. So they had the cattle, but they didn't have the place to stay. So a government official who was a good Samaritan organized now a place for these people to go, and the Lekganyane family and Engenas to go to a place which is 1 kilometer away from Mount Tabahone, where it's just near the Mamabolo Reserve, near the fence where they got that place and stayed there. And Engenas reached 18 years and he was able to pay taxes and move to Transvaal as a migrant worker there. That's where, but for him, before moving there, he was attending a missionary school, a Presbyterian missionary school, which she was taught by a Xhosa woman, where she was taught a lot of stuff there. That's the educational background we get of the story of Engenas Lekganyane. And me sharing this history of the church, ZCC, and the founder, it's not an easy thing, especially for me as a non-member, because to get information of the church, you get to understand that maybe there was a deal that was made between the owners of the church and the congregation not to speak about the church's affairs, especially in public, and which I respect. So sometimes you have to probe, and in probing and telling this history and stories, we tell it in a more respectful manner, and in a manner that's not gonna tarnish the name of the church, and that's not gonna actually vilify the leader and the founder, Engenas Lekganyane. Because of, when you look into the history, we'll find that in the life of Engenas Lekganyane, there's no record while he was alive where he did interviews, spoke in the media, other than the others who did, other church leaders who were in the media making interviews. But he was just a person who was reserved and kept things to himself, and which I respect. And the media gets to actually, and scholars actually get to know more about the church and the media when, after he had died, and his successors, them coming in, successors like Abu Edward Lekganyane and now Barnabas Lekganyane, they're starting to open up to the media. But there was a point where they opened up, and when they opened up to the media, others, they started publishing fake news, and now they started not opening up more to the media. So in which I understand and respect, because sometimes the media will spread propaganda and fake news so that it paints, they drive this narrative so that it paints a certain perception to people, and they perceive this church in a particular manner that suits whoever's agenda. So going back to him going to Transvaal as a migrant worker, now he gets to meet two important people in his life, which is Edward E.Lion and E.Mahlangu. But there's another figure who I don't think he met before, who was there before in the church, called N.Nkonyane, who was attending N.Nkonyane, who was attending Apostolic Faith Mission. So Apostolic Faith Mission emerges from the USA, I think in New York, where it came with US missionaries, and this church is focusing more on the book of Acts, where the preaching is more emotional and they believe more in miracles. And if you can look at the book of Acts, it's where the apostles go to different places and heal. It's based more on healing and emotions involved and charismaticness involved in the church, unlike the Roman Catholic or Presbyterian, which focuses more when they just listen to the pastor. It's more low-key if you can compare to the Apostolic Faith Mission. So it was mixed race with white leaders also and Afrikaners. Now the church has more Afrikaner members. So they were involved in the church, and N.Nkonyane was there before. So the guy was made a leader, and him started being rebellious and not paying taxes and causing a racial tension in the church, and he was expelled. So history teaches us that this figure, N.Nkonyane, actually he was the first person to start Zion churches, and he went to KZN in Natal, and he saved money up and actually started the Zion church there in Natal. So this figure Nkonyane was close to E.Mahlangu. They say E.Mahlangu at one stage called himself Nkonyane because of the influence he had on him. And E.Mahlangu then he was attending with Lekganyane. So while them attending, and then he had to break away the guy called E.Lion. They opened a branch now of AFM, Apostolic Faith Mission, in Lesotho. There in Lesotho, E.Lion got a land from someone he had converted, a chief, and then he started ZAC, Zion African Church. Now he's the second person who started a Zion African Church. And then they moved now. Lekganyane now, Engenas was a bishop now of the Transvaal under the leadership of E.Lion. And while him being a bishop, he converted a lot of people. That's why now he saw that a lot of people are gravitating towards him because of he was preaching. And that's where he had these encounters with God while he was preaching in Mount Tabachone for him to start a church. So that's why you see that the gift of the founder of ZCC comes way long before, and he had to be under people, under certain leadership. So it teaches me that to be a good leader, you must be a good follower. You must be able to humble yourself to be under people and be teachable, so that all these teachings you gather, they might help you in future. So I don't want to go far. I'll actually do part 2 of the early ages of Engenas Lekganyane. May you like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell next to the subscription so that you can have future videos and future for future episodes. Thanks. Amen.